Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Michael Fisher. I am a faith partnerships lead here at Free Will, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar. And we'll start off talking about the strategy that we can use to harness the great wealth transfer, which we'll unpack here in just a few minutes, and how Scripture will help us as people of faith and the way that we approach fundraising and generosity and the way that we do things differently. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We are recording this session. We will be sharing out the slides and a recording of this session after the completion. And the way that we'll be able to get that to you is by when you complete the survey that we fill out, that we send out at the end of this session. So in the link at the end of the session, we'll be posting a link to a survey that you can complete. We'll also have someone monitoring the Q&A and questions in the chat. So if you do have questions, you can change and send a message to everyone or a message just to us on the panel, and we'll be able to address as many of those questions as we can as well. So our agenda for today, we're going to go through introductions. We'll unpack some of the cultural need about what's happening in the fundraising landscape at nationwide when it comes to the Great Wealth Transfer, what that means to us as pastors, and how we can serve the members of our congregation in a unique way when it comes to stewardship through plan giving, and then some practical takeaways of how you can get involved within the next few months, promoting plan giving and generosity in perhaps a new way at your congregation, and some free resources for you at the end of our time. Introductions from me. My name is Michael Fisher. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, with my wife, Jess, and two young boys, a 3-year-old and a 17-month-old. I spent 11 years of my career in vocational ministry before joining the team in 2020. And now I spend my days working with churches and ministries who are looking to use technology to make it easier for people to support the important work of the church. So I will probably be sharing a little bit more about myself, and you'll hear maybe a little bit more about my family throughout the rest of this talk. But for now, I'd like to hand things over to my friend and colleague, Chris Hall.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Michael. My name's Chris Hall. I'm the faith team lead of our partner success team here at Free Will. And prior to coming to Free Will, I was a pastor in the local church context for about 13 years, most recently as the lead pastor of a multi-site church here in the Boston area where I currently live with my two boys, Finley and Crosby. Finley's 12 and Crosby is 10. I coach all their basketball and soccer and baseball teams, so our lives are hectic right now, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Before Free Will, I also received my Master's of Divinity from Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. So go Bisons. If anybody's in the Nashville area, I think Don's on from Trevecca in the same area. But happy to be here with you today. I'm going to walk us through just a few introductions of our team. So I'm obviously a part of the partner success team, but beyond that, we have a fantastic group of people that work, over 200 folks here at the Free Will. We have the honor and privilege of working alongside this amazing group of people, 200 strong, who have worked to help raise almost 12 billion for nonprofits in the last in the existence of Free Will, and then working alongside over 500 churches, as well as hundreds of faith-based nonprofits. Collectively, the Free Will team has over 5 centuries of combined fundraising experience and expertise, and then about 10 decades of ministry and faith-based nonprofit leadership and experience here on our faith team as well. And then beyond that, we have the honor and privilege of working alongside some amazing nonprofits and ministries in throughout the country. And so as a team, we work alongside them doing great things in the world and in their communities, and we get to help support their mission, pass on their faith, and learn from them as well. I'll pass it back to Michael.
So from a fundraising perspective, and for those of you who are on the call that have been doing fundraising for a while, you probably have heard this before, but I had my eyes opened last summer when I was speaking with a bishop of a Catholic diocese. And this was the first time that this man had ever heard of something called the Great Wealth Transfer. So if this is a repeat for you, please be encouraged knowing that the folks around you may not know that the Great Wealth Transfer exists. And if this is your first time hearing about this, buckle up, because you may be in for some new information that will make you feel excited by the end of this call. In the next 20 to 30 years, over $124 trillion is going to pass hands. And this is what we call the great wealth transfer. Looking at the graph here, you can see just how large the silent and baby boomer generations are. And we think about these folks going to be with the Lord. There's a significant opportunity for us to influence and to help people think about their responsibility as stewards of what they're going to do with their stuff, their assets, their estate after they leave this earth. And if you haven't done this in a while, or maybe ever, later today when you're bored and you're tempted to pick up your favorite distraction device, sit and think just for 2 minutes about how big 1 trillion really is. And impossible for me to comprehend 124 trillion, but just 1 trillion is a significant amount of money. And that's really what got us started here at Free Will. This may be the single greatest opportunity in the course of history for us to raise significant funds from a significant number of people. Because we've all heard this joke, and you've never seen a hearse with a U-Haul attached to it. We know that we can't take our assets with us when we leave this earth. And with $124 trillion expected to change hands by 2048, my son is 3, he turns 4 this month. He'll be 27 by 2048. So when my son is 27 years old, $124 trillion will be in different ownership. We need to take action as a church. Because when we're thinking as a secular fundraiser or someone raising money for great work like an animal shelter or a hospital, it makes sense that we do fundraising. And when you think from a spiritual perspective, when we're talking about plan giving, it makes even more sense that we talk about helping people create their estate plan. Why? People turn to the church for advice on just about everything, but we know that 67% of the people in the country, and including your churches, don't have an up-to-date estate plan. For years, I spent time traveling the country, meeting with individual families, helping them go through and create their estate plan, asking them to consider leaving a gift to ministry in their estate. And it just blew my mind that regardless of wealth and size and education and socioeconomic status, the majority of people just don't have a plan. And when they do make an estate plan, giving is rarely prompted. So of those people that do have an estate plan, less than 10% have a gift included to some charity of any type. And the reality is when people give charitably, they are choosing to give to many different nonprofits during their lifetime. Your church is probably one on a menu of 5 to 7 charities that individuals support. And if we don't remind people and ask them to consider leaving a gift to the church when they're creating their estate plan, the church simply will be left out. So as you know, most people think about estate planning or legacy giving as something that's reserved for the wealthy, the very top of the pyramid. And those people typically are going to work with estate planning attorneys, professional advisors. This is the perception. And then there's the middle of the pyramid, and this is maybe people who have access to do-it-yourself options online, or eventually they'll pay and stretch and pay a professional to create their estate plan, but they're going to wait until maybe their kids are grown. They don't want to spend the money until they actually need their plan, their will to be in place. And I don't know about you, but probably not have a hard time predicting when we're actually going to need our estate plan. But then we think about the people who are at the bottom of this pyramid, the 75%. 75% of the people who are never going to be approached by anyone asking them to consider leaving a charitable gift. Maybe they tithe and they've been giving faithfully to your church for years. Maybe they give a little bit extra every month. They love your church, they volunteer, they love the community, but they've never been given a simple way to make a long-term plan. And here's the truth. Most people are going to die without a will in place. No charitable gift, no plan. Worst case scenario, they have an issue with their family and they have some emotional mess and legal mess with their family has to clean up for them. Best case scenario, kids split things equally after a few months and maybe a few years of probate. But the church and ministries that have maybe been receiving monthly support for years no longer receive those checks. And it's not because the people sitting in your pews don't care about your church. It's simply because no one ever asked them to take that next step. And that's what we're trying to change. The reality is nonprofits are asking your supporters, your members, to consider estate gifts. And we know that regardless of wealth, everyone needs an estate plan in place. So instead of just hoping and praying that a few people take action, this is a time for churches to step up. And Chris mentioned we work with hundreds of churches and ministries here at Free Will. And we know that when churches step into this space, not with pressure, but from a purely pastoral care perspective, everything changes. Because the most impactful gift that people will ever give isn't one that they're making during their lifetime. For most of us, myself included, it'll be one that we make in our estate. And with free will now for the first time, and we'll teach you today, even without free will, but with Make a Will Sunday and this technology that's available, for the first time, we can help people make a gift, create their estate plan, prepare for the future, and protect their family, all at no cost. So I'm going to hand things back to Chris. He's going to unpack why this is important for the church and and a couple of opportunities that you may have to move things forward on your own.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I'm going to ask that you just keep moving the slides forward for me here.
Yeah.
But so Michael just talked about the great wealth transfer. The great wealth transfer is great news. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the pastoral problem. So the question then becomes, well, then what's the bad news? The bad news is, according to Giving USA, over the past 40 years, so from 1983 to 2023, giving to religious organizations has declined from 63% of the total charitable giving to a new historic low of just 24% of that giving. And so the driving force behind this trend is that most churchgoers no longer see giving to the church as their top priority, but simply as one of several giving options, right? Some of that is compounded by the fact that the number of nonprofit organizations has increased by almost 500,000 in the last 10 years. 27% new growth in the nonprofit space, which is great and something to celebrate, but it also then begs the question people are asking, then why should I give to my church when I have all these other options? Why should I give to this faith-based ministry when I have all of these other options? So giving is being spread out, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But on the next slide, I want to quickly just hit on continuing sort of this 40-year decline, the question around it. So this is compounded by a few trends that we've seen in recent years. Since 2021, giving to religious-related organizations has fallen 4.1%. That's inflation adjusted. And so while we've seen an increase in charitable giving, something to celebrate, total charitable giving is at 557 billion, which I can't even fathom, but that's amazing. But what that means then is that churches or ministries' ability to grow is severely impacted by that.
And so, for some context, when I first started doing fundraising 11 years ago, this number was around 380 billion that was given annually. So I think it's wonderful that there's more given each year. But to the ministry, to your church, you're receiving dollar per dollar less than you were just 10 years ago, even though generally folks are giving more. So we have an opportunity to step up and empower people and make it easier for them to give with this result. And if you're enjoying this data, I would encourage you. A lot of this information is coming from our friends at Horizon Stewardship. They do a semi-annual survey. So if you ever have the opportunity to participate in that next level generosity survey, please take advantage of that. And that's the data that you're enjoying today. So thanks to Joe and the folks over there for publishing that. Thanks,
Yeah,
Chris.
and continuing in that survey, that assessment, what they found was two other trends that seem to contribute to this. So most ministry funding is contributed by a decreasing number of givers. In other words, in most churches and in a lot of ministries, 5 to 10% of households provide two-thirds of all of their funding. Right. So in a church of 250 people, this means about 5 to 15 families give two-thirds of all of your budget. There's a huge untapped group of people who don't know the ways they should be giving or simply aren't giving. And then the other trend is that givers over 80 years old often provide a significant share of ministry funding. And so now every good leader knows a problem is really just an opportunity for growth and change. And so what all of this shows is that we're missing the cultural and pastoral opportunity that Michael spoke about just a minute ago with the great wealth transfer. And it highlights the need for us to begin having these conversations. So I want to shift real quick and just talk about then the pastoral opportunity that we see here. And really, I think it comes down to we have an opportunity to reframe a larger conversation around stewardship and generosity. We have an opportunity and a need to grow and change in how we talk about generosity and stewardship within the church and within faith-based nonprofits. So if you grew up with the idea, I grew up this way in a church that had the idea of tithing, the 10% rule. If you grew up with that idea, if you grew up around that kind of language, then we've been spending the last few decades asking people to tithe 10% of what they have on hand. But that doesn't really cultivate a lifestyle of generosity, and it misses the point of generosity in the Bible. Because the reality is God owns it all. And Michael, I'll ask you to go just a little bit ahead in the slide. It's not just my money. It's not just my the things I have on hand, but it's my life. When I was working in the church, we would often have these stewardship conversations, and I would always wonder, why are we only talking about cash when we talk about ways to give, ways to support the ministry, ways to support the mission, ways to be involved in giving to this new thing or being a part of the legacy we're creating, to be good stewards. We want people to be good stewards of the cash that they have, for sure. But as we read the scripture, we're also called to be good stewards of our relationships, of the witness we have in this world, of God's creation, of all the blessings that God has given us. And that includes assets that aren't cash. And here's what we're seeing. Americans only hold about 3% of their assets in cash, which means all of those sermons, all those emails, all those messages we've put out where we've preached about giving or tithing, we've really only been asking people or teaching people to be generous with about 10% of 3% of what they have, right? Which is not only doing a disservice to our community in their spiritual formation, but it's also a disservice to our communities when it comes to fundraising. If you were able to join us I think it was last month, we had the honor and the privilege of having Dr. Russell James come and share about his new book, The Biblical Fundraiser, and he introduced us to a story found in Luke chapter 12. And he pointed us to the story of the rich fool who built bigger barns to store up wealth, reminded us that this parable, Deborah, yes, all of these slides, you'll be able to have access to all of this and a recording of this as well. Uh, he pointed us to the parable, which is actually a response to a question from someone in the crowd. We read there in Luke 12, it says, now someone in the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me. But he said to him, You there, who appointed me a judge or arbiter over the two of you? And then he goes on to tell the parable of the rich fool. Someone wanting Jesus to so what we see in the story is someone is wanting Jesus to be the arbiter in what we would call a probate fight, right? And I think the thing that we want to avoid in all of our families is a probate fight. He comes to Jesus. He says, "Tell my brother how he should share his inheritance." Jesus' response here, though, is to tell a story of a man who is wildly successful, someone who would probably be at the top of that pyramid that Michael showed earlier, someone who's going to be on all the emails, someone who's going to be invited to all the events, someone who's going to be asked to participate in the capital campaign, whatever it may be. This is who Jesus tells a story of. So much so, he's so successful that he needs to build space to hold all of the wealth he's accumulated. So he builds bigger barns. But I want to hone in on the words that Jesus actually attributes to God in this story, and the question it begs of us as readers, as followers of Jesus, and as fundraisers. So if you look here, Luke chapter 12, this is the end of the parable, verses 20 through 21. It says, But God said to him, You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. So he comes to him with the question, who will get what you have prepared for yourself? In this parable, Jesus doesn't tell the brother he has to split the inheritance. He doesn't give a prescriptive answer to how much should be divided among siblings or among kids or among spouses or among organizations within the community. He instead seems to focus on the legacy we create. Are you storing it up for yourself, or are you being rich towards God? Jesus' response here is actually extremely pastoral, and I think serves as an example for us, whether we're in pastoral ministry or if we're simply in the fundraising world, right? It's not our role to direct people in exactly how much should go where, or which family members get what, or what nonprofits they have to give to, or how much they have to give when they give. Instead, it is our job to create the opportunity to point them to Scripture and to help them ask and answer the question, what kind of legacy are you called to create? What does it look like in your life and your legacy to be rich towards God? Because the reality is in the story, this man did build a legacy. He created a legacy. He was going to be the guy who was known for having the biggest barns and the newest barns. But that is not the legacy that we're called to create. It isn't the kind of legacy we as followers of Jesus or kingdom-minded people are called to create. So the question for us as ministry fundraisers, as pastors then is what does it look like on a practical level to help people explore this question? That's why we're excited to have our dear friend Ann Morick here to share with us. And I'm going to let Michael introduce her real quick.
Absolutely. So Anne's joining us from Grace Family Church in the Tampa, Florida area, and really excited to have Anne join us today and share about how their church has used free will and a partnership in a very unique way to equip their pastors and to equip their folks with some opportunities to be generous in Florida. So Anne and I met in 2021, and I have truly enjoyed watching the progress that has occurred since she really took the lead when it comes to stewardship of the church. And I feel like all churches would be better off having someone like Anne on their staff. And I'll tell you that I've worked in a church of 300, and I know that not every church can afford to hire someone dedicated to stewardship and fundraising. So if you're in that boat as well, know that you don't have to be a massively large church like Grace Family Church to be successful here. And I'm confident that everyone on this call will enjoy hearing from Ann. So, Ann, I'd love it if you would come off mute and share with us a little bit about your strategy there at Grace Family Church when it comes to free will and using free will really as a pastoral resource.
Hello, everyone. Michael, I need to pay you. I'll send you a cash app. Because I'm like, who is this person he's talking about?
Um,
Well, here's what we've done. We started with free will just a few years ago, and where our pastor didn't know what direction to take with this. He didn't know whether or not it would work. And my attitude was, let's meet the people where they are, and that's care. Our role is to care for people. Our role is to love upon people. And what we found was a large amount of our people, as Michael and Chris has said, had no clue when it came to legacy giving, when it came to QCD, to stock transfers. They had no clue. We started small. And what I mean by that is I met with the care pastors. And of course, we have sick and shut ins, we have people going into hospitals for different needs. They don't have healthcare directives, they don't have any of this stuff. So we started with free will for just focusing on the wills. And what we found was, and our pastor was kind of, okay, well, let's see how this goes. And then, much to his surprise, within a couple of years, we had legacy gifts of $11 million. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute, this really works. But then we began to talk about, okay, let's talk about QCDs. We have a considerable amount of our members that are 71 and a half years old. Let's help them with get a bigger bang for their buck, better tax savings. Let's talk about this. And who did I go to? Free Will again. They said, Ann, we'll help you. Now we are a large church, very large, and I am a one-woman department. But I have a team of free will staff that'll step in and that'll help me. And what are you guys working on? And we'll help you. We'll help draft what you need. We'll help walk you through it. We had a plan in place. We just didn't do it haphazardly. We did it. I worked with them. They held my hand. They walked me through it. And then the next step we did stocks. What we found was we had a, I would say maybe Less than 0.5% of our members were giving stock, but they were going about it in a different manner where they were contacting their broker was contacting ours, and we know what that means. Fees, 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 fees. So what we did was partnered with Free Will, directed them there. They saw how much easier it was. And then they were like, okay, well, then I can keep my cash for my vacation and I can give some stock over and just transfer it over to you all. And I don't have to worry about that tax anymore. Sure don't. So then we saw the growth in the stock as well. So it's made it a whole lot easier for me being a one woman office person. And it's made it tremendously easy for our members. Like I said, when you have a team like Free Will, that they're my right hand, left hand, and every other hand. And they said, and we got you. What are you doing? What are you planning? We have your back.
Thanks for sharing that, Ann. 11 million. That's a one. I haven't stayed up to date on the numbers.
Could
That's
you
amazing.
imagine the reaction from our pastor? He's
That's
like,
amazing.
I told him, I said, it's job security, job security.
That's wonderful. And I can just think of all the families that have been helped that make up that number and how they're so much better off. How did you introduce the concept of legacy giving to your pastors in a way that felt like spiritually grounded and not transactional?
Well, here's one of the things that the approach that we did. Every year, our pastor in February does what we call the finance series.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was, uh, I asked him, of course, Free Will helped me with the script. And I asked him, here's an opportunity to, everyone loves free. Here's an opportunity to introduce something to our congregation for free that will benefit them. We did not ask, our intentions were not to ask that we didn't ask them to put Grace Family Church on as gift us anything. We offered this to help them so that they can prepare themselves and be better stewards. Because, as you just mentioned, you can't take, you never see, a Sphinx truck following a hearse. So let's do something so that we can prepare, help your family be better prepared. And we're here to help you to be that better steward. And your kids, your grandkids don't have to give all the money, leave it all in probate. So when we did that and said all of this is free, then it opened the door. At first, some of them didn't really think it was free. And then when they realized it was free,
We run into that problem. It seems like free is too good to be true.
yeah,
It, it's sometimes the best things are given free with an open hand.
yes.
When it comes to Make a Will Sunday, you mentioned the video that Pastor Craig recorded. Was that part of this stewardship and Make a Will Sunday outreach?
Yes, yes. And he asked, he said, I just with a show of hands, how many of you have prepared a will? How many of you have everything in order? And much to our surprise, there were very few hands that went up. And that's what we started. And then I teamed with the care pastors on this and said, okay, let's meet them, let's help them. What can we do to help them be better prepared? And giving them the peace of mind, knowing that, okay, I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Absolutely. And then from the engagement with Make a Will Month, you had the video announcement. Did you also send emails or do anything else to get the word out to folks?
Yes, here's how we've done this. We have different ministries and we focus it, of course, to make a will. Uh, but in addition to that, what we've done is, like, for instance, we have a marriage conference and it's pretty huge. So the takeaway from that marriage conference is I follow up congratulating them about attending this and pouring into their marriage. Here's another opportunity, another way to pour into your family by doing this, setting this up.
I love
And
that.
that helped as well.
So it's really integrating estate planning as
Yeah,
part of the life of the church, and it's
yeah,
just something that we do this here at Grace Family Church, and here's the way that you can do this to
yes,
protect your family and have a plan.
to
That's
protect your
beautiful.
family. Yes.
Excellent. Well, and I appreciate you joining us to share today. Chris, any questions you want to add here at the end?
No, I just really appreciate you spending time with us, Ann, and I appreciate you. I think the highlight, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, is really that as we reframe this conversation around stewardship and generosity, for many of us, we also get to reframe this conversation that it's not simply about fundraising or asking for money. This is about discipleship. This is about pastoral care. This is an opportunity to walk alongside folks, whether we're a church or whether we're a faith-based nonprofit. We get an opportunity to help people think, how do they want to faithfully steward what God has given them? And how can we provide resources to them where they can care for their loved ones, where they can um, protect from a probate fight, from where they can give to the ministries and the organizations that they care most about, to where they can make sure this legacy has impacts in the kingdom for generations to come. And so I think it's really helpful to reframe it and even see how you've trained your pastoral team to be able to take it into those spaces like a marriage retreat, or take it into those spaces like the financial courses you're already doing, or even being able to walk alongside families as you walk alongside them in these major events in their life, being able to say, do you have an estate plan in place? Not as and can you make sure you give some money to Grace,
Right.
but more as like, you need child guardianship documents. Do you have those in place? We'd love to help you do that. You need to make sure that you have your advanced healthcare directive in place. You can do that. You need to, and so being able to give them this resource from a pastoral perspective, even if our main job is fundraising, we all know that our main job and our main calling is actually in helping people steward and grow in their faith. And so I just really appreciate you sharing that.
Excellent. Thanks, Ann. I'll be in your neck of the woods here in a couple of weeks for a conference in Clearwater. So
Great.
I'll
Come
hit you
and
up. Maybe
see
we can get some
me. Come
barbecue
and
or
see
something.
me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us today and your partnership and trusting free will. For those of you on the call, this is the end of the Ann portion of the interview, but we do have some practical takeaways for you of how you can implement plan or make a will month within your church without having to pay free will. So this is something that you can get started on now. So I'm going to go ahead and transition back over to the slides and hand it over to Chris to unpack how Make a Will Month is a great opportunity for you and your congregations and something you can consider implementing in these next few months.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you again. Quickly, I just want to, so my job here at Free Will and what I want to help you think through, regardless of free will, is high level. I work strategy. I work alongside to say, how can we make sure that people in our community know that estate planning is accessible for them, no matter where they find themselves in life, that everyone needs an estate plan in place. And then also that they know that although it's not typically prompted, giving to a charitable cause is something that you can do in your estate plan. I think many people just don't know they can do that. And so I want to quickly just take a high level view from our faith strategy team's perspective, why we believe if you're going to begin the legacy and estate planning conversation in your community, why Make a Will Month is a unique opportunity and one all of you need to take advantage of. And Alicia, some of this will help apply to the non-religious fundraising space as well. So Make a Will Month, number one, why should you ever consider participating in Make a Will Month or using Make a Will Month as an opportunity to begin your conversations of legacy and estate planning? First, the easy answer is because it works. Free Will's been doing this for a while. It's our top performing campaign 5 years in a row. And so That is just right off the top. In August 2024, we raised more than 350 million for our nonprofit partners from free will outreach, but also just because so many organizations are talking about Make a Will Month. This has become sort of a national observance. Lots of different organizations are talking about it. Lots of different places are highlighting this. And so it drives traffic to freewill.com, and then our outreach does as well. And so this opportunity is already in front of your community. We saw 350 million raised. Last year, Free Will Partners saw 26.6 million raised in bequests just through the outreach that they sent specifically for Make a Will Month. And then Make a Will Month remains our number one campaign. And returning partners, people who do this over and over again, I think it's got that sort of old marketing adage that it takes 7 touch points before someone kind of moves to action. The more you share it, the more you're willing to show, like, hey, this is important to us, and we think it should be important to you, the more people are going to use it. So if you're looking for an opportunity to begin this conversation in your church or in your nonprofit organization, this is an easy on-ramp. It's sort of that low-hanging fruit where you can talk about it. And so beyond even Make a Will Month, one thing that we want to suggest specifically for church partners, ministry partners who might be joining, I'd encourage you to hone in on a Legacy Sunday or a Make a Will Sunday within the month of August. And Michael will hit on this a little bit more, but beyond the financial implications of this, here's why this should take up some of the valuable time on Sundays for you. The Bible talks more about generosity and possessions than any other topic, except for the topic of love. And while we don't necessarily always think of it this way, creating a will is a fantastic act of love. If you zoom out and go, why did I create a will? By creating will, I get to pass on my valuable assets to the people I care about. But I also get to protect my loved ones. I get to make sure that they don't get caught in a probate fight. I get to make sure that they know my wishes and aren't caught in awkward situations or just tense moments while they should be able to grieve properly. I get to put in child guardianship documents in place and make sure that my children are cared for if, heaven forbid, something happened before they were old enough. I also get to pass on my faith, but I get to invest in the future of the church. And I think this is a great act of love. And so we want to encourage you in that. And Michael, I'm going to pass this off to you.
Absolutely. So one thing to be aware of, especially if you're a church leader within a congregation and you may be hesitant to talk about plan giving and the opportunity for generosity in an estate plan, is I just want you to know and be aware that nonprofits in your community are already asking folks within your church to consider leaving gifts to them in their estate plan. And the fundraisers at universities like Harvard and Yale and places like St. Jude would love to have the connection that you have with the folks that come to your church every week or every 2.5 times a month, whatever the ratio is now. They would love to have the opportunity to speak directly with people the same way that you do. On the flip side, your supporters, the people that are in your church, truly love and would appreciate the opportunity to support your church in such a profound way by including them in this place, which is their estate plan. If they're only asked by places that are worthy causes, but may not be that number one priority for giving and generosity like the church is, and they don't realize that there's an opportunity to give to the church, then we find ourselves in stories where here in India, I was speaking with they're about your size and a church, a multi-site church in India that missed out on a $1 million stock gift from a committed donor on their leadership board as a lay leader. He needed to give stock because his financial advisor told him that this was the type of asset that he wanted to give. He ended up giving the gift to Habitat for Humanity of Indianapolis, a worthy cause, doing great work. He wanted to support the church and only found out that he was able to give to the church after sharing during a basketball game with the CFO about this problem that he had encountered at the end of the year. So if people are already being asked to leave a gift in their will by thousands of nonprofits who are promoting Make a Will Month throughout the month of August, and then your church stands up on Sunday morning or Saturday evening or whenever you meet and tells folks, hey, we know that you're thinking about protecting your family. We know that you care about the church. We have this opportunity for you to create a plan and to do something that will not only provide for your family while you're living, create healthcare documents, power of attorney documents, but also consider how you provide for your family after you leave this earth. This is a message that people in your congregation want to hear, and it is something that will truly be beneficial to your congregation, to your individuals, And you really get to join the train of nonprofits that are driving this marketing machine of National Make-A-Will Month and bring it home to this idea of giving locally to your congregation. When we offer this free resource for folks, it allows us to equip people to be better stewards of what God has given them. It's wonderful to celebrate $11 million in gift commitments to a single church and the tens of billions of dollars that have been committed to nonprofits across the country. But when we provide an opportunity for people to create an estate plan, to get up and off the sidelines and across the finish line, it truly does change the way that people think about interacting with the church, and people feel really good about this opportunity that you've given them. I do want to call something out that's very interesting. Chris may have mentioned this a couple of slides ago, but we mentioned the dollars raised through Make-A-Will Month outreach. $19 million was raised on one single day of campaigns through Make-A-Will Sunday in 2022. Ministries and churches working with Free Will saw a 500% increase in site traffic. So there was a significant interest in people that were taking action after they were talked about talked about Make-A-Will Sunday in the local church, and a significant amount of dollars that were created. And we would love for you to be part of helping us report higher numbers in 2025. So Chris is going to share with you a few things you can do to participate in Make-A-Will Sunday this year.
Yeah. So what should you do, right? What are some practical ways that you can do this if you're starting from scratch, if you've never talked about this, if you want to start? As we've said, that Make-A-Will Month is sort of that prime time for your audience. And so what I want to encourage you to do coming out of this, you'll have an opportunity to fill out a survey. You'll have an opportunity to download a toolkit of resources with templates, with timelines, with helpful tips. So I just want to encourage you, download that and explore the options, familiarize yourself with it, and begin to think about what would this look like for us to share it with our community. On top of that, maybe use one of those templates to send an email, a standalone email is what we call it, where it's simply just an email about legacy giving and the ways that people can do this. The reason I encourage you to do this is in the years that we've been doing this at Free Will, we've seen that of our participating partners in Make-A-Will Month, partners who send a standalone email are 2 times more likely to see a bequest than folks who don't send emails or who share it in different ways. And so I want to encourage you, while I know that we send a lot of communications, I know we send a lot of emails, this is one that's probably worth taking the time to put together to share as a resource and to encourage folks. The next step is announce it from the stage, announce it from the pulpit. I'd encourage you as you do that. I'm going to have Michael go to the next slide real quick, please. If you're wondering, hey, how can we do that? If you need help organizing your thoughts or getting some announcement ideas put together, I want to introduce Sophie. Some of you may be aware of this, but this is a powerful tool designed to support faith-based organizations, houses of worship, nonprofits in their fundraising efforts. We had the opportunity to build this. This was a lot of fun for our team to actually put together, but it is completely free for everyone, so you don't have to worry about costs or anything like that. It's a day-to-day use tool. And this was designed specifically for our faith-based partners. So you can go in, you can use it, and you can even find there's a specific part of the tool where you can say, I need a Sunday announcement, or I need an e-bulletin insert, and you can tell that you're trying to do something with Make-A-Will Sunday. It'll give you some language to be able to use. So I encourage you to do that as well. But then beyond that, as you announce it from the stage in the pulpit, I do want you to consider creating a short form video for your team, sharing about estate planning and the opportunity to create a legacy. What we've seen in our research is that younger donors specifically, as we're having all of these conversations about who's going to inherit this great wealth transfer, millennials and Gen Z are the ones who are going to be inheriting the majority of this. And our younger donors are often a conversation piece that we're having within the fundraising space, but especially within the church. I want to encourage you with those younger donors. They see non-professional, sort of authentic video. You got to think they see a lot of TikTok videos. They see a lot of Instagram reels. They see a lot of just like sort of me on my phone, giving you a quick update of what's happening in my life. They see those kind of videos as a compelling form of communication and connection. It feels real to them. It feels like a space of connection. And so I want to encourage you to consider sharing that. And then the last part of that is share about estate planning in these key pastoral moments that Michael has on the slide here. And I think this last point is huge. Anne helped hit on it, but I want to just sort of continue there because ultimately, I would love for all of us to leave here today seeing planned giving, estate planning, not just as a tool for development and generosity, but also as a tool for spiritual formation and pastoral care. If almost 70% of American adults don't have a legally valid will or trust in place, that's obviously a problem. But we want to be able to come alongside you and say, we are providing you ways for you to put an estate plan in place so that we can empower 100% of our community, 100% of our church family, of our donors, of the people we're connected to put a plan in place that secures their future, that cares for their loved ones, that invests in the ministries they love and care about, and has an impact for the kingdom for generations to come. Because the bottom line is, much of what you're already doing is helping people integrate their commitment to Christ and his kingdom into every aspect of their life. You walk alongside people through financial courses, through senior adult ministries, through kids ministries, individual giving moments, premarital prep or marriage conferences, as Ann talked about, baptisms, funeral planning. All of these are moments that we often don't think about. This is a moment where we can incorporate estate planning, not as an ask, not as a, hey, make sure we get some money when this happens, but more as if you're investing in our kids ministry, do you have child guardianship documents in place to make sure that your kids are taken care of and raised in the ways that you believe and pray that they are, if heaven forbid something were to happen to you? You're getting ready to get married. You're joining two into one. What does that look like for you? Now you need to know what happens if one of us passes away, or what are our wishes together? Those sorts of things. And so I want us to be able to walk alongside people in those moments, to be able to offer estate planning that's not just write a will, but also thinking about power of attorneys, beneficiaries, advanced healthcare directives. All of these are moments that have opportunities to reflect our faith, but also have opportunities to have huge impacts in the fundraising space as we think about the estate planning and the great wealth transfer. And so I'm going to pass it back to Michael now to talk about the resources coming out of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I hope that you found something beneficial, inspiring. I love the questions in the chat. If you do have questions, you're welcome to submit those in the Q&A function or use the chat. We may have a couple of minutes to address some of those when we wrap up. Some housekeeping things here at the end and some resources provided for you. First off, download the Make a Will month toolkit, specifically for Make a Will Sunday, or Alicia, some folks were asking about secular organizations and non-religious organizations. We do have the majority of our content is actually created for regular non-religious nonprofits. So we do have a toolkit specifically for you if this is not your specific wheelhouse. But I'd encourage you to download that toolkit. We also shared the link to Sophie on the QR code. If you'd like to use that AI tool that is available to you, it's no cost. We don't have a way to bill anyone for it. So feel free to use that now, regardless of our partnership. And then finally, we're going to drop a survey link in the chat. If you would really just do me a favor and go ahead and fill that survey out, it would be tremendously helpful and help us decide if we're going to continue to offer these education-based webinars. We have decided and scheduled, in my opinion, a much better speaker than me and Chris. And we'll give him a run for his money every day. Russell James is coming back with us next month, July 17th, just a couple of days before my birthday. And he'll be sharing, unpacking the second part of a webinar series. I've actually listened to this presentation in the past. I'm very excited for all of you to learn from him, and any opportunity that I have to hear Russell speak, I can learn from him and his research and work that he's done. So I'd encourage you to join us for that webinar if you'd like to continue learning. And then if you are interested in learning more about how you could partner with Free Will in a paid relationship where you could work with Chris, folks on his team, use our technology and help people consider making impactful gifts to your church or ministry. In the survey, there'll be an option there where you can indicate that you'd like to speak with a member of our team. And we have folks that are exclusively working with church leadership. If you're leading a national denomination or a Catholic diocese, you'll probably end up working with me directly. But regardless of what you'd like to speak about, if you have ideas using Make a Will Month, Make a Will Sunday, especially if you have anything that's successful and that would be useful to replicate, I'd love to invite you to have this platform and share your results with others. Feel free to reach out to me either through email or on LinkedIn now or anytime in the future. So again, if you would, please fill out that survey. Let us know you're here. Provide us some feedback. And I'm going to look now in the chat at some questions. One question, Chris already answered on the 19 million. We track estate gift commitments when people were creating their wills. Obviously, someone has to pass away for that gift commitment in their will to become reality. I hope that my grandparents use their estate plan before I do, but I believe that everyone, regardless of their age, should have a plan in place because we can't predict the future. So we have to plan for it. As far as where to download the toolkit, I know that there's Phoebe from our marketing team is on this call. If we have that link available now, maybe we can drop it in the chat. Otherwise, Greg and Scott, if you fill out the survey and ask that question there, I'll make sure that I get you a link to that toolkit directly. Oh, perfect. Phoebe has told us that we will send a link to the toolkit to everyone in the follow-up email, which is exactly what I expected. And you'll receive that after this webinar. So thanks again for joining us. I don't see any other questions in the chat now. I'll give just 1 or 2 more minutes. And while we wait, just in case there's one more question, let's have a prayer, and then I'll let you get back to your day. God, thank you for this gift of this time together. For each pastor, fundraiser, ministry leader who joined us today, thank you for their calling, their compassion, and their commitment to serving others. We're grateful for your love that sustained us and your grace that empowers us to lead with integrity and hope. And as we leave this space, may we carry what we've learned back into our communities with renewed vision and strength. Guide our hearts, guide our hands, and remind us always that the work that we do matters because of the one that we do it for. It's with gratitude and humility I pray. And we say, amen.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Anne, again for joining us as well.
My pleasure. And if anybody have any questions or want to contact me about different ideas and different things we've tried, I'll be available.
Yeah,
Excellent. Thanks, Anne. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to wrap up now, and we'll be in touch here to chat at any time.